Our whole motto is to walk loud. So, with this idea of breaking the silence around talking about taboo topics and sharing our stories and making sure that people are familiar with the recommended screening ages and the symptoms.
That was Brianna Mercker, who is one of the co-chairs for the Seattle Walk to End Colon Cancer and a stage 4 survivor and advocate. She joined me on the podcast along with her co-chair Natalie Phelps, who is also a young onset stage 4 colorectal cancer survivor and mother. I shared such a valuable conversation with them about the signs and symptoms of colorectal cancer, why raising awareness about the rise in early or young onset is so critical, and how we can channel all of this good energy and momentum into their walk to end colon cancer coming up in a little over a month if you're listening to this episode when it first comes out. They started the Seattle Walk to End Colon Cancer in 2022, and it has already become a huge success. It's clear that they have set out to make this walk an empowering, accessible, meaningful, and even fun experience for the entire community. Keep listening to hear Brianna and Natalie share more about what they have in store for this year's walk in October. Hi, Natalie and Brianna. We are going to just jump right into our conversation today. I would love to start out by hearing a little bit about the Colorectal Cancer Alliance.
Hi, Lauren. The Colorectal Cancer Alliance is the largest nonprofit organization for colorectal cancer in the United States, and their focus is on preventing colorectal cancer, supporting patients, and helping find a cure.
Awesome. And I know it looks like there are a variety of chapters in multiple different states. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. It's a national organization, like Natalie mentioned, and there are volunteers, or what they're known as or referred to as allies, across the country that are involved in the programming, supporting the programming, that are obviously seeking out services that are offered. But there's not typically like chapters.
Okay.
You may be kind of thinking about in terms of how the walk series is structured. There's 18 walks across the country in different cities. There is conversation, though, amongst the alliance. There's kind of a strategic planning process that's happening right now, looking at how there can be more locally based groupings, teams, chapters, if you will, to kind of mobilize and support that community in key areas and cities where there's a growing community.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know you guys have been involved in organizing the Walk to End Colon Cancer, which is really what we're going to be talking mostly about in this conversation today. I'm sure through being involved in that for multiple years, you've developed that community that you're talking about. So just kind of formalizing that would be really cool. I would love to learn from each of you what inspired you to first get involved.
Yeah, I'll kick it off. So I was diagnosed in 2018 and went through a rigorous year of treatment for stage 4 colorectal cancer. After finishing treatment, I'm super, super fortunate to have responded well to treatment. And after kind of transitioning into the survivor world, or wrapping my head around that identity, really wanting to get more involved in raising awareness, particularly as the disease is affecting more and more young people. And that was not known to me before my surprise diagnosis, without family history, without any like known risk factors. It was just a huge shock and unexpected. So after finishing treatment, I was looking to get more involved. And I actually found what was known as the Undie Walk Run at the time, the previous iteration of the Walk to End Colon Cancer. And the closest one was in Portland, Oregon. And so I went and participated in that event, had a really great experience, just felt seen by a community that I didn't know or hadn't connected with previously. And I was also inspired by the support that I got from my community in Seattle in terms of being open and hearing about my journey, becoming more comfortable sharing that very publicly and talking very candidly about all the trials and tribulations, and also like motivated to really raise awareness. So I thought after that experience, positive experience in Portland, I'm like, this is crazy. Why don't we have a walk like this in Seattle? And so started working with the Colorectal Cancer Alliance to lay the groundwork to introduce and launch the walk in Seattle. And so in the meantime, I also met Natalie at a national virtual conference. So this was in 2021 that we met. So it was COVID times still. And we were on a national conference, virtual conference hosted by the Alliance, and found each other's profiles and thought, oh, wow, you're another young mom in the local, like, greater Seattle area. Let's connect. So we met each other. And then as that was like at the same time when the conversations were starting about starting the walk in Seattle. And I was like, hey, you want to, you want to do
Spearhead
this?
this?
You want to be
Yeah.
involved? I need a partner in crime. So Natalie can share her end of that, but kind of roped her in for better or worse. But very fortunate to have a good teammate in this because it's a big endeavor to pull off. So
Yeah. Um, as Bree said, we both met through AllyCon, which was a virtual conference, and we had both realized that we were diagnosed at 38 stage 4 colorectal cancer with colorectal cancer. And she caught me at the right time. I was still in treatment, but similar to her, I had come to the realization that I wasn't just a super rare unlucky person that had been given this diagnosis, but that I was part of a growing concerning trend amongst younger people. And that really motivated me to try to increase awareness of the disease and help build community. I was diagnosed in 2020 in the middle of COVID, and so it was very isolating.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Bree reached out, she caught me at the right moment when I was looking to volunteer. And so I told her, I'm like, great, I will join the committee and you lead the way. And that's how it all started.
I love hearing stories like that when people kind of seems like they fall into your life at the perfect moment. And it sounds like you were ready too for somebody to fall into your life at that point. Cause sometimes I know like when you're initially diagnosed, you're just trying to like wrap your head around the diagnosis and like, what is my path forward? What are my next steps? And maybe you're not looking for like a support group or like to advocate and get involved in that type of way. So I really love hearing that the timing was just like almost meant to be a little bit.
yeah, you're so right. I mean, when I was going through treatment, I was like very heads down, very like goal oriented, stick to the plan. And I had two young kids, as did Natalie. And so, like, my priority was getting treatment and doing all the things that I needed to do. And then also spending time with my family. And I also didn't feel like if I even was looking for support groups, I wasn't going to find anyone like me. I wasn't going to find another young mom with this particular diagnosis that would be relatable. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm really grateful through this connection and facilitated a lot through the Alliance network and through this like vast community of volunteers that Natalie and I have become even more connected to other people that unfortunately our stories are very similar and we can find that camaraderie and community and also like shared passion for raising awareness and making a
Mm-hmm.
difference.
So you
Yeah.
did mention that unfortunately it is a growing trend in younger people, and it is increasing. So I think it's really important just to talk about like initial symptoms or signs so that if people are noticing any of those things and they can go seek out treatment. Do you guys feel comfortable sharing what any initial symptoms you were having were?
Yeah. Um, I'll take this one to start. So my symptoms started in my third trimester of my pregnancy. And I think the fact that I was pregnant really masked the disease. I think my healthcare providers thought they were pregnancy related because hemorrhoids are so common late stage in pregnancy. So I was having a lot of pain sitting, and my doctors just said, well, welcome to third trimester. And I was like, oh, great. But then after I gave birth, it didn't go away, and I lost all the baby weight really fast, and the pain persisted. And then it went from pain to irregular bowel movements to having sort of mucus blood in my stool. And that's when I started to become really concerned, when the pain just kept becoming more and more debilitating, and I started having um, blood in my stool.
Mhm. How about for you, Brianna?
Yeah, so mine was also masked by recent motherhood. So I actually had twin babies, two boys, and they were just about to turn 3 when I was diagnosed. I didn't have the telltale like blood and stool symptoms. For me, again, a lot of them were hidden by or associated with like new parenthood and motherhood. It was also very easy for me to lose the pregnancy weight, but I was nursing 2 kids at the same time, so that's not so surprising. I was obviously experiencing a lot of fatigue, but it was a first time parent. I didn't know anything different. That's another common symptom. Um, and biggest indicator for me that there was something wrong was a change in my normal bathroom habits. So I speak very candidly and openly about this, but I went from being like an every other day kind of gal to like feeling like I needed to go all the time, but not much was actually coming out. And the change of consistency and lots of like cramping and nausea and episodes that were ongoing was like, this is not normal. This is weird. And that's what I shared with my primary care doc. And luckily, she was very responsive and not dismissive to these kinds of unusual symptoms that could be associated with lots of different things, and recommended doing a stool based test. What's known as a FIT test, to look for traces of blood in the stool, and that came back positive. So I wasn't visibly seeing that, but that then prompted a visit to the gastroenterologist, and based on that screening test and also just like lab work in general, they recommended a colonoscopy. So that's what led to my diagnosis.
Well, thank you both so much for sharing that. Again, just the importance of if you're noticing things that just, like you said, new mom, fatigue. So you're just probably attributing it to being a new parent. But if it just, there are other things that it's like the constellation of symptoms and
Yeah.
you really start thinking about it, really important to go see a primary care provider, walk-in clinic.
Yeah, it's so important to pay attention to your body and like know your norms. And when things are askew, um, raise that and question that, and then advocate for yourself in terms of getting to the root cause of what's going on. And I think there is a trend towards greater awareness that it is impacting younger people. And but I still get conversations like when I go to another kind of doctor, like randomly, like, oh, I see this in your history. Like, you're so young. Like, how did this happen? But then take that as an opportunity to also educate and let them
Mhm.
know what's going on.
Well, we know raising awareness is, of course, so important, which is why we talk about signs, symptoms, and that is really a big point of the walk that you both are a part of organizing. What can participants expect when they sign up for the walk?
Great question. Yeah, the whole kind of premise is around breaking the stigma, or talking more openly and reducing the stigma around talking about poop and guts and butts, and just that it's a part of normal process and everybody does it. But in terms of coming to the walk, it's kind of our whole motto is to walk loud. So, with this idea of breaking the silence around talking about taboo topics and sharing our stories and making sure that people are familiar with the recommended screening ages and the symptoms. We have a speaking program at the beginning, which is really powerful and inspiring, including a survivor speaker, and hearing from physicians as well about trends and what's happening in care and research and cures, ideally. But the 3 kind of impact moments that we have built into the program that make it special. One is what's known as the moment of unsilence. where we really like rally the survivors that are there to release, scream, yell, let out all of the emotions, positive, anger, fear, everything. And then we also invite the whole community that's there and present to do the same thing and join us in our yelling, our noise making.
Sounds cathartic.
It is very cathartic. Yeah. And then the other aspect of the walk, through the walk itself, there's a section known as the Mile to Remember, and there's bells that all the participants are given and prompts along that mile to like recognize and acknowledge and think about and ring a bell, again, like an auditory recognition of honoring people that are going through this journey, that have gone through this journey, that may have not made it through the journey. New this year to the walk are going to be tribute signs, also personalizing that, calling out people celebrating their journey, and we're honoring them and their battle. So that's another aspect of the walk. And then the third impact moment is the closeout of the walk, and really calling upon people to make a commitment to continue this walk loud message, to continue to raise awareness, to take what they've learned and they've heard through conversations, through the speakers, and carry it forward. And, we see that happening on a regular basis. Like, I have connections in the community through my children's school, and they come and support the walk, which has been really fantastic to see. And parents that are like there to support me and not necessarily aware of all the like bigger implications, and having people walk away from that event with inspired to get a screening and recognize the importance of it, and then tell me after the fact that they did that, is like best case scenario. And that they're then encouraging, and there's like a ripple effect in terms of raising that awareness. So in general, like we also really are focused on making it a community event, a community building event. It's not a walk, or it's not a run, it's not a race. That's very intentional. It's very accessible. It's meant to be open to, family friendly, flat walk. However you can participate. Lots of kids go with scooters. And just creates an environment where people can connect with one another.
It sounds so supportive for survivors. And then I love moments and community events like this that bring in people who might initially think like, oh, I have no connection to that. I didn't know anybody. I'm younger, the misconception, I'm younger, it's not going to affect me. And then they come and hear from speakers, and they hear the statistics, and they're like, oh, maybe this is relevant to my life. So
yeah, very much so.
So I did notice that the walk is free to participate in, which I think is super cool. But it does make me kind of curious about how the fundraising aspect of the walk works. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'll speak to that. So, Lauren, the Alliance very much wants to make the walk an accessible event to all people. So it is free. And the nice thing about that is that I think that people can just show up like healthcare workers or people that already do a lot for the community and not being asked to give. However, if you want to get a t-shirt, the event t-shirt, you need to either fundraise and or combination donate up to $100. And it is still a fundraising event to support all the services that the Colorectal Cancer Alliance does. We do have sponsorship, national sponsors, and we are fortunate to have local sponsors from many cancer institutes in the Puget Sound area. So that helps us put on the event, as well as we're fortunate to have a large group of colorectal cancer patients and caregivers volunteering, as well as the support of the National Charity League, who provides the bulk of volunteers the day of the event to execute it. So all of those things sort of come together and help us put it on and make it still a free event so that those who have different financial situations don't have to have that barrier.
I think it's so amazing that it's a free event. It was like refreshing to see that. And just good for listeners to know too, of like form a team, have your coworkers come with you to join
Yeah.
at the walk.
I think it's just as important. Clearly there's benefit to raising resources, but in terms of raising awareness, like I was referencing before, like the more people that can come and hear that message and learn from that, and then spread that with a ripple effect of passing on the importance of screening and things, symptoms to be looking for, and just that
Mm-hmm.
general knowledge is really important. And the people that show up on the ground and help um, to walk loud with us, and also support the efforts like Natalie mentioned of the Alliance and their screening programs and their programs to support patients and caregivers, and then also to fund the research dollars. So the fundraising piece is an important element, just in terms of, colorectal cancer in general is not like the hot button in terms of like science and research. There's really quite limited treatment options that are available, kind of shockingly. And we really need more advancements for especially advanced stage disease, and encouraging new kind of trials, new chemotherapies, new
Mm-hmm.
immunotherapies. And so there is an element of urgency in terms of um, helping to develop resources and funds to support those efforts that are direly needed.
Absolutely. So when is the walk? And then how can people sign up to participate?
Yeah, the walk is on October 5th, Saturday morning. Signing up is super easy. There's a website. It's ccalliance.org/Seattle Walk. And like we mentioned, it's free to register. And we do encourage folks to register just so that we can prepare and plan for the numbers. We've been really well received with the community. The first event was in 2022, and we were shocked. Natalie and I thought it was just going to be like our friends and family and just like a personal
Mm-hmm.
party for us. We had 600 people register and show up, and we raised
Oh
over
my gosh.
$100,000. So it was really kind of hit it out the gate, and that was very exciting. And then last year was our second year. We had over 1,000 people
Oh my gosh,
registered
that's amazing.
and raised double the amount. So we're really proud of all those efforts, and like so overwhelmed with gratitude for the community for rallying around this event and this cause. I also wanted to put a plug in. There's another event and program that we've set up. We partnered with the Mariners to do Strikeout Colorectal Cancer Day, and that's on September 15th. It's a Sunday day game, again, with the intention of making it very accessible and family friendly. Um, Tickets are $30, and we'll get a special t-shirt, Strikeout Colorectal Cancer t-shirt that's Mariners themed, and $8 of every ticket purchase is actually going to go towards the Colorectal Cancer Alliance. And those tickets can be purchased from the website mariners.com/strikeoutcrc. So definitely want to give a plug. We're hoping to fill the bleachers with a big community, and it's also a great community building event for our community as well. And
Yeah,
yeah,
that sounds like such a fun event. I'll be sure to put the link to sign up for the walk and the Mariners event in the episode description for people to just easily click on and
cool.
register for and create a team and all the things.
All the things. Cool.
Yes,
Thank you for your support.
of course. I'd love to just kind of wrap up the episode by talking about raising awareness a little bit more since it's so important, and then just looking forward a bit. We've talked a lot about the signs and symptoms of colorectal cancer, but I'd love to just hear from each of you. What do you think is one of the most important things that people should know about colorectal cancer? If you had to choose just one.
I would say that it is quickly becoming the number one type of cancer that people under 50 are getting. So if you are under 50 and going to get cancer, this is very soon going to be the top one that you're likely to get. And I think that's something that people aren't aware of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Natalie.
statistically, it actually is the number one cancer killer for men under age 50 at this time. And it's number two for women. And so I would just echo that. I mean, it's not an old person's disease. It's not an old man's disease. This is the new face, Natalie and I, young women, young mothers diagnosed in our 30s. We have folks in our community that have been diagnosed in their 20s, and it's shocking. And we're still trying to uncover why. And so I think in terms of trends and upcoming is looking at research to identify the causes. There's a lot of conversation around gut microbiome and environmental impacts that are wreaking havoc on our bodies. But yeah, anyone can be affected, unfortunately, and you don't have to have a family history. You can be super healthy, you can be vegan, you can be thinking that you're doing all the right things, and it doesn't discriminate. So,
Yeah, and I just encourage people, given that there's just scary trends globally about cancer rising amongst younger people for all types of cancers, but given how prominent this type is and that there are screening tools like fit kits and this new blood test, please do screening, even if you're too young and your doctor will not let you do a colonoscopy or a Cologuard kit. Please use the blood screening tests or a fit kit and do something, because we've seen too many people in their 20s and 30s, like ourselves, getting diagnosed. And by the time you have symptoms, you're usually stage 3 or 4, and it's a much more serious thing to tackle, as I know, having been in active treatment for 4 years. So
Thank you for saying that, Natalie. So important. The first key is education. If you're listening to this podcast, you're getting that education and information. The second thing is, speaking from personal experience, I know it's scary to take that step and like go to the doctor because you're nervous of what you might find out. But again, it's so important to get access, if it is cancer, to get access to treatment as quickly as possible.
yeah, Natalie and I are both very quick to say, and even for those that are 45 and of average risk, unfortunately, the percentage of folks that actually go ahead and get screened is still alarmingly low. And colorectal cancer is a preventable cancer. So you get a colonoscopy, which is the gold standard of screening. If a polyp is found, a precancer polyp is found, it can be removed, and there you go. It's not going to evolve into something worse. And people are very timid or like scared or worried about that actual procedure, but we can tell you in retrospect, it's super easy. Consider it a cleanse, get a great nap, feast afterwards, and it is so much easier than the literal hell of going through treatment and chemo and radiation and multiple surgeries and all the other things that surround actually trying to cure the disease. So if you can prevent it, like easily by making sure you're on top of your screening, that's really what we want to encourage people to do.
Yes, I would be remiss if I didn't point you all who are listening to an episode that we did in March on tips for preparing for a colonoscopy. So if you are kind of nervous about that, go check out that resource. I'd love to hear from each of you just to fully wrap up today. What keeps you motivated and inspired in your advocacy work?
My motivation is to prevent other people from going through what I went through and to save lives. That's it. Simple, plain and simple.
How about you, Natalie?
Very similar to save lives. Because of my situation right now, I am a stage 4 fighter, and realizing how difficult it can be at this point to get resources. So I'm really pivoting from not just screening focus, but also on really supporting and advocating for better supports for people who are in stage 4.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Thank you both so much for all the work you do. Thank you for organizing and starting this amazing walk. That sounds like it's been so successful the past few years. I'm grateful to be a part of just getting the word out there. All the links and things that you guys mentioned throughout, I'll be sure to have in the episode description. Thank you so much, Brianna and Natalie. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much, Lauren, for having us.
If you live in Seattle or the surrounding area, check your calendar to see what you're doing on October 5th. Don't see anything yet? Head on over to the Colorectal Cancer Alliance's Walk to End Colon Cancer website to register for free. If you don't live in the Seattle area, the Colorectal Cancer Alliance hosts this walk in multiple locations, so go ahead and see if there is one closer to you. We released a whole series focused on colorectal cancer, including preparing for a colonoscopy, parenting through a new diagnosis, and screening tests, so don't forget to check those out too. Please don't forget to leave a nice rating for our show in your podcast app and share this episode with a family member or friend. I'm Lauren Ryan, and until next time, please stay healthy and well.